Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. Are political dynasties taking over in Nigeria? This is the question on the lips of many Nigerians following the outcome of the primary elections of political parties, which featured the offsprings of many politicians, both serving and former. Some of them are General Sani Abacha's son in Kano, former Governor Sule Lamido's son in Jigawa, Governor Nasiru El-Rufai's son in Kaduna, former Governor Abiola Ajimobi's son in Oyo, former Governor James Ibori's daughter in Delta, Governor Abdullahi Ganduja's son in Kano, Governor Ifanyi Okowa's daughter in Delta, former Governors Adebayo Alawa Akala's son in Oyo, former Governor Ayo Fahishe's son in Ikiti, as well as former Governor Ahmed Sani Yariman Bakura's son in Zamfara. They all won their primary elections to occupy various elective positions in the land. However, the likes of Adam Namadi, son of former Vice President Namadi Sambo, failed to secure the ticket to contest in the House of Representatives election, despite reportedly doling out 100 million naira to 38 delegates in the state. This brings to the fore the level of monetization of the political and election process in Nigeria. Tonight on the program, we'll be discussing the 2023 election, money politics and political dynasties. We are now joined by Dr. Obinna Ebirim, a member of the APC, as well as Hamza Idris, the General Editor, Daily Trust. But let's take a minute's break, after which the conversation begins fully. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics, and let's now get to the discussions proper. We'll be talking, just like I said, in respect to issues of political dynasties, monetization of the polity, as well as the 2023 elections. Just like I said, we have in the studio Malam Hamza Idris, the General Editor, Daily Trust, and Dr. Obinna Ebirim, who is a member of the APC and also a former House of Representatives aspirant. He is a fellow of the Mandela Washington Fellowship. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen.
It's a pleasure being here.
So let me begin with Dr. Obinna. The 2023 election, came with, a lot of difference, looking at party politics, looking at election processes and conduct, and of course, what is generally considered as one of the elections that may likely going to be the most expensive election so far in Nigeria's political history. We're beginning to see how political parties forms, nomination forms, are appearing in terms of the amount. From 40 million to 100 million naira, in some instances, like the APC, for instance. Why do you think this is happening? At a time we're also battling with, indices of poverty, inflation, and so on.
Yes, so personally, I'm not a proponent of monetization of the politics or making politics too expensive. Ideally, leadership should be service, right? When someone is coming to serve, the process should be made as easy as possible. So that's the ideal situation. But leadership in Nigeria we need to get to that point. I don't think we're there where leadership is purely a selfless service to the public. And until we get to that point, we might continue seeing a process where the politics is monetized, it's made very expensive because it's not seen as service to the public. It's rather seen maybe as another venue for people to amass more power, amass wealth, which should be discouraged. So that's my view. It's not something I encourage. It's something that we must intentionally work towards reducing the cost of politics. In fact, I think that one of the things that the next National Assembly should be a law that puts a cap on how much people should spend during the election period. I think that when we get to that, we will then begin to see people not banking on their money and their bullion vans, rather on the choice of the people.
Right, okay, talking about the ideal situation, what leadership should be, a service to humanity, for instance, selfless service. Some will say we have witnessed some level of, that selfless service in the history, in our history as a nation, for instance. Looking back at, the First Republic, for instance, and subsequent Republic, you will find out that people who come out, to aspire for leadership positions are actually doing so in order to provide service, not, to look at what they will get in terms of monetary gains or whatever. We've seen the likes of late Sardona of blessed memory and the likes who died, without something to show for it as leaders. They were selfless and so on. At what point did we degenerate into this money politics?
When those vested with responsibility started stealing. And then when selfless service was relegated to the background, when the civil service was corrupted, and then when politics of ideology was jettisoned, and this started towards the second leg of the Second Republic. What am I trying to say? Before, people will come and knock at your door and then beg you to contest for election because they know they are calling you to serve, as Dr. rightly said. But as time goes on, people started, aspiring in order to enrich themselves. So they corrupted the process. It became an investment of sorts. You start calculating what you are spending right from the day you extended your mission or your vision or whatever to people around you. You start spending money on them. You keep recording it. And then at the end of the day, by the time you get to the office, you are left with nothing but to start thinking on how to recoup
your so-called investment.
Exactly. So the issue of delivering dividends of democracy is not even there. So it's so sad that we have reached this level in Nigeria that you just have to either borrow, look for an investor, or you steal for you to get any elected position now.
Okay, let's look at, the process and the people, those that matter. Democratic contest, is based on, your ability to market yourself, in terms of ideas, ideology, and what you stand for as a political party, for instance. But we're beginning to see, is it because of our decay in a value system? People who ordinarily should be asking for leadership, who should be asking for good governance, are no longer interested in that. What they're interested in is how much they're going to get what value are they going to get, at the point of recruiting leaders,
Yes.
not necessarily what will happen after. How are you looking at this? What do you think is responsible for this shift in terms of our value orientation?
I think it's a circle. And that circle, it's difficult to say who was the lead, who started the circle. Is it the political elites or the people? Because I'll give you an example. When I was aspiring for House of Reps, I would go to, in my local community, I would tell them about the library I attracted, and they would say, you have to give us money, because when we elect you, we won't see you. We'll be in Abuja and you will just come here sparingly. They don't want to know what you've done. They want that immediate gratification. And then the politician or the candidate finds himself in that position where he needs to do what he needs to do to win the election. And then when he wins the election, he then begins to amass wealth for the next election, and then the cycle continues. So I think that it's a problem of Nigerians, not just the political elite, even the people. We need an ethical orientation. We need to reorient our mindset to shift from immediate gratification and then speak about things that matter. There are only few candidates in this electoral cycle who are actually speaking about, talking to the issues. What you hear is, I want to win this. What's your policy mandate? What's your policy goal with respect to healthcare? What do you want to do in terms of healthcare? What's your plan to ensure that you have affordable healthcare, quality healthcare that gets to all Nigerians? What do you have? What's your plan for education?
So we're not talking about issue-based, campaigns or issue-based engagement with the electorate.
Yes.
Rather, perhaps we're just looking at.
There are few. I must say there are candidates who have been fortunate to go on tour with some of the candidates, and they have actually spoken to the issues of insecurity, issues of education, issues of health, and even some crossing issues like climate change, the move out away from fossil fuel, some of those things. So I think that the point is, and it's important for everyone watching, we need to speak to the issues, especially in this political season. It's easy for the people to be distracted, right? But I think that we need to intentionally get people back, the politicians back, to speak to issues. Let's not speak about the people, let's speak about the issues. And I think that there are candidates who are showing the example, and others needs to follow. And we the people, right? We the people must consciously ask those questions. And I think also we need to also speak to, when we talk about like health or education, let's not talk about the infrastructure. We are quick to say buildings, right? Let's talk about the quality of the service,
policies, and so on and so forth. Okay, he talked about fundamental issues like the disconnect between leaders and the led. That substantially has, created this scenario. The electors feel that, okay, we're just seeing you today because you are here to seek our mandate. As soon as you get there, we'll no longer see you. So it is better we take our own now before you get there. And then, even knowing fully well, perhaps if they get there, it's about recouping their investment and so on. And again, he talked about the need to talk to the issues, speak to the issues, and so on. But today, we're speaking to those that matter. And who are those that matters in this respect? We're talking about delegates. We're talking about influential people in the political party, traditional institutions, and so on. When you find, aspirants moving around the country, they are speaking to these categories of people, not even the ordinary people who ultimately, cast their votes in the end. How are you looking at this, trajectory, and how, what impact will it make in terms of our leadership recruitment process?
Honestly, we have descended so low. Is the lowest mark that a country can descend, especially this election season. You can see the money, in dollars being spent by aspirants, from those looking for State House of Assembly, House of Representatives, Senate, and then the presidency, and then governorship. every other person is just spending money without fear. And it's like a contest now for the highest bidder. And that is why you see delegates being bribed, because it's bribery. It's bribery, and the laws are clear. But it appears even our law enforcement agents are helpless. Now, the delegates see what is happening as their own moment. They are the brides now, and they feel if they didn't get what they should get now, it will be in 2027 when another election season comes. And that is why, as he rightly said, there is no, they don't have this spirit of deferred gratification, according to Obama. You know, he cited deferred gratification. That is people, you know, suppressing their urge for material gain, for ultimate gain. You insist on getting the right person who will go and deliver goods and services to the people.
But in our own scenario, how can they differ? You know, we're looking at the situation on ground. A number of, some of these people, you'll find out that they get to even the election venues or where they need to meet the aspirant and so on. They had to borrow money to get there. Perhaps they go there with an empty stomach and things like that.
We know of aspirants, you understand, who sold the houses they live with their families and then use the money, you know, for campaign. They rent apartments and keep their families there in anticipation of office. And if they didn't get it, they will never recover. And that is why you see them deploying all sorts of tricks and crookery in order to win.
Does the delegate system, add to this? For instance, you find out that, yes, the amendment to the Electoral Act, has paved way for the three options now: the direct, indirect, and the consensus arrangement in political parties' primaries, for instance. The direct primary, many say, would have been the right and ideal option. But the political parties disagree that it is capital intensive, and of course it has so many challenges, gathering a lot of people without providing security and what have you. So we end up with the indirect primary, which brings about the issue of delegate system. And then these delegates, in most cases, are also being teleguided because they don't have, a decision on their own. Largely, it is said that the governors in respective states are the ones in control or in charge of the delegates. So whatever is coming in terms of monetary value, does not necessarily even go to the delegates in the first place. It has to go to those who decide, and so on. How do you think this is contributing to this problem of monetization of our polity? Does the delegate system has an impact on this?
So the thing is, first of all, because of the maturity level of our electoral process, it's good we have various options. Why I say so is that where you don't have a very good register, where you are not able to provide the required level of security, right? It's difficult to have the direct primaries because you need to have a good register. You need to organize properly to have a large group voting. But then when you have the indirect option, it's also important that the process starts very well at the lower level, and that those that are coming up are people who are true representative of the people and who are going forward with the true yearnings of the people, right? Because that is the whole idea of having a representative, having few people representing a group, right? They should be able to carry along the true yearnings, the true cravings of the people, and then present it.
The expectations in terms of who becomes
yes,
what.
who becomes, yes. And I think that we need to get to that point where these representatives begin to also interrogate these aspirants, right? It shouldn't, the discourse today in the media everywhere, it's about money, money, money. we need to get to a point where we de-emphasize on money and begin to have delegates ask those critical questions to the aspirants. What is your plan for our people, the people that sent us? What is your plan?
Do the delegate in the first place understand their role and what is expected of them?
So I think we need to break that circle. It's a circle, right? We need to break that circle and get people to begin to ask the real question. Until when we get to that point, because you see, what you hold the candidate accountable for is what he's going to do. If you hold him accountable for funding, for finance, for money, right, he's going to go there, amass a lot of wealth to make sure there's adequate fund for the next election. But when you hold the candidate accountable on issues that bother to you, healthcare, education, economy, and all that, right, he will then go there making sure he's fixing the health system, the educational system, the economics of the country, because that is what he would present to you in the next election cycle. So it's important we break that cycle and begin to deal with the issues.
Right, dealing with the issues, we've seen the manifestations or the negative impact, for instance, of this monetization of the polity, even before the election itself. We've seen how it scared, a number of people with genuine intention, for instance, to serve. We've seen aspirants withdrawing from the race, perhaps because they cannot measure in terms of the financial needs. We've seen also aspirants who, because of their principles, for instance, would say no to bribing delegates and so on. And we saw the outcome of the exercise, as a result of, because of that inability or to reach out in terms of, how those aspirants also fared. So, looking at all of this, how do we manage the situation, especially now that more than ever before, Nigeria is in dire need of good governance, leaders who are selfless, leaders who are focused, and of course, who are ready to deal with the issues, just like Dr. has said.
We must ask some pertinent questions and then look for the answers.
Okay. From who now?
Good. Now, who is a delegate? Nobody cares to ask this question. Who is a delegate? You see, the delegate system is not the creation of Nigeria. We borrowed it, but we corrupted it, like the democracy itself. In other climes, delegates are responsible people. Delegates are, lots on their own, you understand. Delegates are highly responsible people.
Influential, perhaps, in the society.
Yes. But in Nigeria, the recruitment process is faulty, not only for the delegates, but for even the aspirants. We see selection of delegates as time for compensation.
For political party loyalty.
Yeah, loyalists. So you now pick even talks.
Some go to the extent of engaging outrageous number of aides, because in most cases political aides are used as delegates.
And then they rarely get anything post-election season. So once, in fact, some people lobby, some bribe their way to be selected to become delegates, because they believe that once they are delegates, they are now brides. They are going to collect money from almost all the aspirants, but you can see some aspirants are now rebel. They don't care, even though they know they get bribe, but they come in the open, ask for
refund. We're actually coming to that. It's another fundamental issue.
I think there are also some good lessons to learn, because in the ways we engage as delegates to help kind of reshape the thinking. Like I was fortunate to join the vice president on one of his trips. And what I saw that was striking, he did, which I think other aspirants need to learn from, is the fact that he takes time. In fact, he pulls up his iPad to take questions on key issues and then engage with the delegates on those issues. And then after, he then takes a picture where he tells the delegates that, keep this picture and use it to hold me accountable when I become the president if I don't keep to my words, right? So I think that we need to move towards
but
that.
there are also cases of envelopes flying here and there, and
I can't confirm. The one I attended, I didn't see that. What I saw was that level of engagement based on issues. And I think that other aspirants across political parties need to begin to engage delegates.
I think many of them are doing this.
On issues.
But the issue is, after the formal engagement,
yeah, certainly
the
something is being
inducement now
expected.
follows. Some even asking for account numbers.
I've had
Then they will
cases
now
of people, asking for account
and
numbers.
then you see, handlers of other containers asking questions because they even plant stooges. Somebody supporting candidates.
Yeah, we even had cases where monies are, and people are asking, where aspirants go and promise certain amount of money, and the delegates are yet to see. We like in one of the states, about, is it 30? I can't remember the amount now that was given, but in the end, about 10 million or so.
As I told you,
was released.
Mr. Shafiu,
So,
as I told you, some people bribe their way to become delegates, especially the elective delegates. For the statutory delegates, which we are not using, there are certain qualifications that you must possess for you to
get
be
there.
there. Yeah. But they are all corrupt. I'm not.
But seriously, they pay because when I was working in Imo State as the PA to and they had an election then. Actually, they spend a lot of money to become a delegate. It's actually a big. It's actually a big election.
It's also more of an investment too.
Yes,
People have to
they
invest,
spend.
in anticipation of what will come.
So how will you get it right?
Take for instance the presidential contest. Some delegates are set to go home with like 7-8 million naira, for instance.
No, it's more than that.
Or even more than
when
that.
you convert $35,000,
so you can imagine, and they collect this from all the, diaspora.
Yeah, diaspora, some $5 million.
Yeah. So I think that is something we need to de-emphasize. I think that it might not be an immediate. It's not something you might stop in this electoral cycle. But I think that it's something that we need to gradually begin. And one of the ways to stop something of this nature that eating deep into the marrow, or that is even widespread, because are you going to stop it from political elites or from the people who are having that expectation? And if you don't meet that expectation, you might not perform well, right? Or the desperate or the politician who wants to win a lot. So I think that one of the ways you can stop such an issue in any society is enacting laws, right? If you put the right laws that says if you have the evidence to have spent this amount of money, right? And then there are evidence out there, right? You are going to be disqualified.
But the laws are there.
Talking about that's what I want to say. Now, talking about laws.
Look at how political parties now break the law. What is the threshold for presidential contest? But right from selling forms, political parties now peg presidential form 40 million and 100 million.
Take for instance.
And INEC did not say anything.
A political party.
Police did not say anything. EFCC yet to say anything.
A political party that abhors corruption, for instance, can take as much as 100 million naira for forms. Some will, some find it difficult to understand.
And so far,
but there
nearly
are
30.
But there are
over
also,
30, yeah.
But there are also, looking at the explanations now, that, election is also capital intensive. We have to generate money to be able to, market our candidates.
But you can't
and so on and so forth.
You can't build something on nothing. Political parties, the ideal way to generate revenue for political parties is through subscription, right? That is what is happening.
There are many ways.
One of them, which is you allow people to fund the party so that they own it.
But they also know that, for instance, political parties that are claiming to have 40 million registered members, for instance, know that those 40 million registered members may not have the wherewithal. So, in a way, they have to come up with a strategy to mop up money from aspirants who are interested in contesting under the platform of the money.
I think that I think that is something that for my party, the new leadership would work towards. There are various ways a political party can raise funds. He has spoken to one of them, which is if you have a system where you have your members, a good register, people are paying their dues. You don't have to make it expensive. Like, for example, I think our due is about 100 naira or 200 a month, right? If you have a way where people consistently pay, you're going to generate a lot of money. Where the APC is one of the biggest political party in Africa with a lot of membership.
Well, after how many years? You're not up to 8 years here. We're talking about becoming the biggest party in Africa. We had a political party that talks about being the biggest political party in Africa, and but then, okay, that's another issue altogether. So it's about time we take a break. In case you're just joining us, the program is Daily Politics, and we're looking at monetization of our polity, the emergence of political dynasties, and of course, we'll be looking at other issues in the polity, such as consensus, and of course, the primaries. The convention that is left out. But I mean, some political parties are yet to conduct their national convention, and what is playing out ahead of such a very important gathering. And I've been interfacing with Hamza Idris, the general editor at Daily Trust newspaper, and Dr. Obinna Eberi, who is a member of the APC and also a former House of Representatives aspirant. Together we'll be looking at the issues. When we return, we'll also look at other issues such as the emergence of the political dynasties, just like I mentioned earlier. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's still Daily Politics, and it's reaching you live from Trust TV here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. And today we're looking at monetization of the polity, and of course the emergence of political dynasties and issues of consensus and other matters within the polity. Just like I said before the break, we've been interfacing with Hamza Idris, the general editor at Daily Trust newspapers, and Dr. Obinna Eberi, an APC member. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, we're back. Now, looking at the issue of is it deliberate or is it by coincidence that we're beginning to see, children of politicians coming up, to aspire for elective positions, perhaps to replace their fathers and so on. Reel out the number of children belonging to either serving or former governors who have aspired, who have contested for certain elective positions, tickets within their political parties, and were able to scale through. I've also seen, I think, two children of the current Chief Justice of the Federation emerge in Bauchi. This is outside the political class. So what do you make up with this, how do I put it now, generational political, political manifestations?
So not to sound emotional or sentimental, this is something that has had historical antecedent. It's not starting, this is not the first time it's happening. As far back as 1976 with, I think, the Taka family in Benue, even down to the southeast, and then the Saraki family, and it cuts across both political parties. And it's not just peculiar to Nigeria, even in the US, you talk about the Bush family. So it's something that might have to live with us for a longer time. What is important, really, it's not about, the family. It's that the process must be seen to be free and fair, and that it should be that which is driven by what democracy is, which is government of the people, by the people, for the people.
But we just talk about, the fact that it is already monetized.
So we've agreed, I think before the break, we agreed that we need to de-emphasize that we need to move away from money politics to issue-based politics. And we give examples, right? But I think that here, what is important is, I wouldn't say that we have to move away from the politics of dynasty, right? Because it's something that might have to stay with us for a long time, right? Because the way power political power is won and lost, it's difficult for us to foreclose that option. But what is important is that those decisions should be made by the people and not just by a single godfather or a single power that is not representative of the people's will, right? So if children or relatives of those who have held power before are imagined, it should be based on the choice of the people and not just one godfather, in quote, making a selection for the people.
Right. Making it a choice of the people, and looking at the trajectory again, and the leadership, the processes. Gradually, we're beginning to see, some level of blockade to the ordinary people. One, you have to have the wherewithal in terms of finances to even get clues, to aspiring for leadership. Two, even the laws, for instance, sometimes are not favoring the ordinary people, the vulnerable, the marginalized, so to speak. At some point, we had the not too young to run kind of law, because it's a law now. It was meant, to support or to empower the youth to aspire for leadership positions. But we're beginning to see the kind of youths it is breeding, outside those perhaps who have fought for it. Where was the missing link?
You see, in political science, there is what we call iron law of oligarchy. It means people who are in position of authority maintain that trajectory and then block the commoner from cracking the wall to enter. It's a serious problem. As he rightly said, you have this in other climes, but without prejudice to the development and the emancipation of the commoner. But in Nigeria, take for instance, I may be wrong, but maybe 60 to 70% of all these young people from prominent families that emerge as prospective successors, they do not study in Nigeria. This is the first barrier. And then most of them are very young people who had it smooth from nursery to university. And they have unfettered access to resources. Their parents have that committee up there, a clique. So it is very easy for them. But for the son of the poor, myself, you, I don't know, Dr. Obina.
Yes.
It's not easy. How long did it take you to graduate? It took me so many. In fact, I graduated at over 30.
Because of the environment.
Exactly. The environment is not just conducive. So that iron law of oligarchy, has, conquered the poor from gaining access to power.
Now, we've been complaining, or Nigerians have been, agitating over what is called state capture, perhaps by the elites, so to speak. We've seen this manifesting in every sector, from the labor market, to opportunities in the civil service and so on and so forth. And now it's becoming more prominent in the political sector or the political scene. While the current generation of leadership have created a kind of scenario or a kind of, a strategy to perpetually remain within the system. We're beginning to see that manifesting. If you are a governor, the next thing you are eyeing is to go to the Senate where you will stay forever.
And your son takes over.
And he takes over. And we're beginning to see that also happening. And then talking about allowing a level playing ground, we're also beginning to see how some of these governors, because of the access to power, creating a space for their children to emerge. In some states, we've seen how they push out, even the incumbents, those who are currently holding such a position, to push them out of political parties just to get their children to occupy those seats. So does this add to the challenge of the concerns with regard to state capture that we're talking about?
It is. Why? Because, let me give you a very simple scenario. Why did the civil service collapse? why did the security sector, the security architecture collapse? If you are not a son of somebody, you can't go to NDA. You are either the son of an emir, a son of maybe a prominent pastor, a prominent imam, a governor, or whatever, a senator, and all that.
The rest of it.
Yes. If you go from NDA, you're supposed to command, you're supposed to lead. But you are looking back. You just want that for image, you understand?
The rank, yeah.
Yes, status. That is a status symbol, not really a service. That is why we are still battling with insecurity. Because those who are supposed to lead, they
are afraid perhaps they will go to the front line.
They are afraid to go to the front line. This is one. It is the same with the police, immigration, customs, and all that. If you go to the civil service, the juicy agencies, if you go, they share the slots.
Well, I come out for.
Yes, and that is why somebody who, while in school, maybe his father giving him 1 million per month for upkeep, apart from accommodation and all that. Now, you take him to an agency to work. They don't even want to go. That is why all these juicy agencies, they have collapsed. Because the people that populated those areas, they don't have interest in the work.
So I think...
So how do we emancipate the people? Because what it means is that people have been strangulated from all directions. They've been denied access to opportunities, employment opportunities, denied access to education,
to
denied
health.
access to health, now denied access to leadership that will even change their fortunes. So how can,
So I think that one of the solutions we've mentioned is if we de-emphasize or de-emphasize money politics, and it's seen as selfless service to the people, then more people will be included. Some of those barriers will be removed.
How can we remove them?
Which is we need to intentionally put laws.
Who are we? Do we have access to
No, I mean like the next assembly, we need to find out what are the gaps in the law. Right? One of the gaps is when you say an aspirant, right? Aspirant means the person. Let's talk about the campaign team or the money that he needs, including those raised, right? There must be a cap, right? So let's look at...
There is already a cap, just like
so that's one. I think
the laws, we're not bereaved of laws, The laws are there, but who is to enforce them? The same people that create the laws, that's supposed to enforce the laws, are the ones also breaking the laws.
I think that we need to strengthen it. One thing about laws, about electoral system, is the fact that if you break it, your opponent is there to hold you accountable. So what we need to do is to tighten that law. When we tighten it in a way that it would affect the person's electoral success or victory, you would see that we don't need anybody to enforce it. The opponent will enforce it on their behalf because they want to claim the mandate. That's one of the things we need. The other thing is that we need to move into that realm of meritocracy, right? Where we are making selections, where we're choosing, where we are promoting people based on merit, right? And I think that we've gone a little bit far backwards. So it's not just something that only laws needs to do. We need to have a reorientation of our mindset. We need to, I think maybe the NOA needs to come in here, the leadership needs to come in, get involved. We need to get back to that point where we are celebrating merit, where we are celebrating excellence, and we are shifting away from this immediate gratification, this money. Everything is about money. No, let's go back.
Yes,
merit.
Right. How do we, reverse the trend or change the narratives, looking at where we are today? How do we get this value reorientation work in order to emancipate the people or to empower the people to realize that power belongs actually to them?
The elite will not give the poor. They will not give. The poor must struggle and get it. Freedom is fought for. I'm not talking about taking arms. We have
not violent revolution.
No. Yeah. But the strongest one, what is it? Education. You can see on the streets when you go to the motor parks, the children of the poor. I want to recommend that people should sell their clothes. People should sell their food to go to school.
Should do everything possible to get their children educated.
Yes. In fact, I was doing Okada up to university level, let me tell you. I sold my motorbike when I was in 400 level to ride my final year project. I was doing Okada. for all this, in order to study.
Yes, Malam Hamza, we're talking
So
about...
people,
Yes.
people must liberate themselves. You have to struggle. If you get education, with time, you will break the barrier.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, it takes a stronger, heart, a mind to do so. Looking at the current situation.
Can I add that also?
Now, because yes, if you're like people have priorities, for instance.
Yes.
You're talking about getting the children educated and getting themselves perhaps educated, but at the same time, people are also looking at how they can survive. What to eat first to survive before they even go to school.
Wallahi, there are certain things I don't want to say here. My father sold our food
I understand.
to give me to go to school. I don't know.
Maybe
you passed
we
away.
all have
the
stories
thing
to
is,
say.
So what we are saying
there is a
is that
cycle.
Yeah.
people
Must prioritize.
must sacrifice. You, in fact, in a family, if each family will struggle, will coalesce into a force and empower one, you understand?
Yeah.
We will get there.
Yeah. But must people suffer? Must people get to this when the authorities or the leadership? That's the essence of government, for instance. All of this we're talking about, educating the people, providing security, improving the economy. It's a responsibility of the government.
Yes, but it's a cycle. And I think what Malam Hamza is speaking to is the fact that we must struggle and intentionally break a cycle. Because you're looking at it from a cycle. It's difficult when you look at a cycle, you say, okay, because they are poor and they are hungry, they need to take care of their health. And then when they are doing that, then the cycle continues. But then I think that we've come to that point where we have to intentionally break that cycle. And the way to break the cycle is, how do I do everything possible to get educated so that I'll be in a position, I'll be enlightened to ask for my rights and be in a position to make a change? How can I break that poverty, right, and hold that politician who is coming to my community accountable to providing education? Because if you now say, because I am hungry and I need to feed, and let me collect money, right? You continue that cycle, because he then comes, he will not speak to the issue of education, you collect the money, then when he becomes the leader, he doesn't fix the educational system or make it quality, and you don't have access to education, and the cycle continues. So this is a time we must intentionally, and I don't know how to put it, we must break that cycle.
Deliberately, intentionally
and break that cycle.
Right, okay. He talks about the agencies, for instance. The media is one of it. Perhaps we have a responsibility, even though some also see the media as part of the arrangement, so to speak. But then, how do we get to educate the people to understand that this power or this freedom or this, what they require in terms of good governance is not getting on the platter of gold?
It's through this program. Program like this.
I agree.
Excellent topics. The media, social responsibility. You see, many media houses, they have monetized their program
and so on.
Exactly. And that is why we are part and parcel of the road. But if media houses will deliberately provide space and then invite people and then
programs
invite role models to come and share their experiences. As you rightly said, people are just talking about what to eat. So they don't care about whether, somebody will just be given 1,000 naira and he has mortgaged 4 years. And that 1,000 will not last him tomorrow.
That's right.
But with deliberate campaign, sensitization and awareness, and then people who break the genes to support others, we will get there. All our schools are closed now, all the universities. For how many months? They don't care because their children are not there.
That's right.
Now, at the subnational level, governors should also help to now change the narrative. We have state universities, right? I know that some universities are still in session now.
Some are exorbitantly expensive, even state universities.
Please sell your house and pay school fees for your son. He will buy another one for you.
Right, that's a very good one. From that punchy line, perhaps we have to come to the end of the program. What it means is that Nigerians have to rise up to change the narrative. Nobody else can do it. We have to do it ourselves. Thank you very much, Dr. Obina Emery, for talking to us, and Malam Hamza for your perspectives.
Thank you.
We really appreciate. On behalf of the guests and the technical crew, my name is Shafiu Suleiman. Do have yourself a wonderful time ahead.